Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Mike Ames Recruitment Show, where we're going to be talking about how to boost revenues without growing your team. Now, we have a rather excellent guest on today, but before then, I want to welcome my co-host, which is Mike, who seems to have been holidaying on the sun, if you were to look at his face. Very pink.
Well, yes, hello, Kirsty. The thing is, I'm at the coast at the old Welsh Weekender at the moment, and we had people down over the weekend. The weather was supposed to rain the whole time, and it didn't. It was absolutely beautiful. And we were sitting out having coffee and poncing around, and there's a breeze and all of that. I went in that night, and my wife said, "Look at you! Sun cream is your friend." I'd forgotten that advice. So
you're only 38, but you look you're in your mid-60s.
That's right, but the hair's gone white. Look, the blue shirt and everything. It's a story, isn't it, lovely?
Anyway, Mike, moving on from your face, can we talk about, we're talking about how to boost revenues without growing your team. Why are we talking about those two things linked together? Why do we not want to grow teams?
Because when I speak to people often, I say, well, what are you going to do next year? And what I'm going to hire this person or that person or this, that, and the other, open a new desk or something. And that's actually the wrong answer. The right answer is I'm going to make this much net profit, which might mean I need to hire some more people or anything really. But the starting point is the net profit. And I think people forget that because the two words that interchange in recruitment are productivity and profitability. They're the same thing really. And you should hire when you get to that nearly the top end of your current productivity. In other words, the team is working almost as good as it's capable of doing. Then it's time to hire, because then you're maximizing your productivity and therefore your profitability. But people don't do that. And so therefore they don't make as much money as they should. In some cases, they don't make any money at all, really, because it's just hiring people and blowing it on people. So I wanted to talk about this and explore it. And I wanted to bring someone on the show who could bring something different to it. So we've invited Sean Anderson of Hoxo to come on because, he's not like a coach like we are, but he's a coach in a different way. And he's seen hundreds and hundreds of companies, what works and what doesn't. And we had a debate about this. It was really interesting. I said, come on, let's do that online. So let's welcome Sean to the show, shall we?
Hi, Sean.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Hello, Sean. Welcome. Yes, a big build up there for you. So, and just for those people that don't know Sean, just in case you've got any listeners from the Congo or something, Sean is been in recruitment 15 years, I think, a recruiter, and then moving into his current space. Co-founder of Hoxo, I think everyone's heard of them, and also the co-host of the RAG podcast, which is quite a big podcast in the space. So welcome, Sean.
Thank you. It's nice to be on the other side of the mic for once. I was recording my own show today. I've got another one this afternoon. So yeah, it's good slot to get an experience on the other side.
You can just lay back and take it easy.
You lot you can ask the questions for once. I'll have a break.
We've done all the prep for you. It's perfect. So we are going to get kind of into things in a second, and we are very lucky to have you here today, Sean. So anybody who's watching live, please do put questions in for Sean and I will bring them up. But I want to start I know Mike briefly touched on it there, Sean, but can you give us a sort of general idea, a sense of how you got to where you are now, your path through the recruitment world, as it were?
Yeah, and I'll try and keep it as brief as possible because I can talk. So I started my career in Australia in 2011. So it was exactly 15 years, May 2011. I went traveling. I was a school teacher in the UK, PE teacher, went traveling, landed in Melbourne, ran out of money, sick of traveling, wanted to get a job, landed a recruitment job at Randstad, second largest in the world at the time. I did about 18 months and then did a bit more traveling and decided to move to London. And I did all right. I was definitely a very capable recruiter in the role that I had, but I didn't make much money because of this team they amalgamated around this big government contract. So there was literally no commission structure, like zero. So we got these like quarterly bonuses for like performance. But I didn't know what I didn't know, so I just kind of went for it. And I built a big contract book, and it was only when my brother got into it and he did like one deal and then doubled my salary. I was like, what the fuck is he doing? So anyway, yeah, I was like, I'm in the wrong company here. So anyway, I moved to London in the Olympics. So I started with a company called Vacancies in Trafalgar Square, right over the square, in the middle of the Olympics, 2012. cracking time to be in London, and I did that. I was with them for 5.5 years. So I left in January 2017. So I started Hoxo in March 2017, so 9 years ago, just over. I was a top biller. I was a 700 grand biller. I was a team leader, became a manager, and ended up running the UK side of their contract business. I spent 2 years planning my exit with my business partner. Hoxo was originally a recruitment company. We already had like Bullhorn, CRM, and factoring companies up for our contractors and everything already. And then I conveniently changed the plan last minute. And again, this is a whole podcast in itself, but in 2016, I spent a year basically planning my exit. I'd already bought a house. I was 29 years old. I knew I wanted to launch my company a year later. I was thinking, right, what can I? It was how I was going to build it. I was obsessed with. It was like an architect trying to design it, and I realized that the way I was learning in 2019 was the way I was going to apply myself, which was I was learning through YouTube, through podcasts, through digital information. Yeah, as a recruiter, everything was analog based. It was just picking up the phone, buying beers and coffees and lunches. And I didn't use any of the tactics that I was using to learn to actually win business and perform better. So it was only a short period, maybe 3 months before I left, I started to apply it. And the plan was launch a recruitment company in this like modern way, have a podcast, have an event series, have my face everywhere. Because I always fancied myself as a really good performer when I got in the room with people. But the more, I guess, and Michael know more than me, the more you get successful in recruitment, especially for other people, typically the more shit they throw at you, and the less you do what you were good at. So I wasn't actually in the room very often anymore. I was dealing with recruiting, training, issues, problems, contractor, any times a problem it came to me. And then I was still doing the odd deal and a bit of BD, but there wasn't a lot there. And then for 3 months before I left, I was basically putting myself out there online without any real strategy, just picking up what I'd learned. And it was crazy. Like the amount of work that was coming in, people commenting on things, the messages I was getting off candidates that I'd not spoken to. And I got really excited about it. And then long story short, Hoxo, we quit our jobs at the end of January 2017 with a plan to launch a recruitment company. And within 4 weeks, I decided I wanted to build a second business, which was a digital agency at the time. A social media agency, as it was called, to basically teach other agents or help other recruiters do this, because I was like, I think I'm onto something. No one in the world is doing this stuff back then, 2016, 2017. And then that business just took off so fast. I never actually started the recruitment company. Left on side, like literally, we said we'll burn our non-compete away for 6 months and see how we feel, and then we were just inundated with it. And then that grew to the pandemic. I had 15 employees in London in an office in Bethnal Green. I had 35 clients on a retainer. We were essentially their outsourced marketing department. Walked into the pandemic on day one, everyone, basically people like Mike telling me that my business was fucked and that I was going to have to, sorry for my French, but was going to have to come up with something else because marketing would be the first thing to go. And what I realized was I've been planning a training business for 2 years. I've been planning how to, because I was a teacher who then did really well in recruitment, and then I'd moved into marketing. I wanted to teach recruiters marketing. I was like, I think I can do this. But the bit that I do, the founder-led stuff, how to influence, we were doing over $1 million a year from my LinkedIn account at this point. So I'm like, how do I train other recruitment founders to do that? So I launched a training program idea in the pandemic, right? And literally May 2020. So that's 6 years ago. And my whole business changed after that, completely changed. And then I grew 2 companies up to 40 employees in January 2023. And then probably what we're going to talk about today, a lot of the same stuff. I realized that there wasn't much profit in the model, and we changed it around and we scaled it back. And now there's 11 of us. We're a coaching and advisory practice. We've got clients all over the world. I've worked with over 1,000 recruitment companies, and
wow,
900 since that change in the pandemic. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I get to work with businesses all over the world, founder-led organizations, teach them skills they don't actually have, but they actually do have. They just don't know how to optimize it.
I think we should round this off with Chris's comment there, I think.
Yeah, Chris said, Hoxo and the way Sean operates transformed Red Hold, which I'm assuming is.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, me and Chris go way back, and and a great example of my ideas being deployed in the recruitment space I mean, arguably Chris has done even better than I did with it, but that's another podcast in itself.
And we're going to get as much of that knowledge of your head out in this show today, and we're very excited about it. So we are going to talk about obviously the team and the ways that we can grow business before then, but I want to sort of pick up on that little point that you made a little bit towards the end there. Is you mentioned that your team grew to this big space and then you've downgraded it. So I want to talk about what the problem is with just hiring, in this case, another recruiter to just live revenues. I want to talk about why that isn't the ideal thing in a lot of ways. So who wants to take this first? Mike, Sean, who wants to take this first?
Let Sean pile in.
Yeah, and I think it starts with, again, the conversation me and you had, Mike. It starts with where you actually want your business to be. And usually the people me and Mike deal with want profit. Usually when you actually cut away at where all the stories and the growth plans, it's like they want money, they want profit, they want options, right? They want, and then when you work out how to get there, and this is exactly what we did in January 2023, me and my business partner, we were growing a business, but we thought we were going to exit. Actually, I thought he wanted to fucking build something for exit. I wasn't actually that into it. He thought I wanted to build something for exit. He wasn't that into it. And we sat down and we sat there with 40 people with all these politics and crap going on. And we both were like, I'm not even sure I like this. And he's like, well, I don't think. And it was like this epiphany moment. And we basically wrote down what we wanted a business to look like. And it was vastly different. But profit was the number one thing. It was basically, we said, we wanted to be proud of what we do. So the products and services want to be very high quality. We wanted a team that was incredibly high quality and enjoyed what they did. We wanted clients who respected us and we enjoyed working with. So there's like a quality and enjoyment theme in all of it. And then we wanted to make profit. And we said, if any of those four drop, there's a problem. But we've got to measure the business in those four areas. And again, I think headcount doesn't necessarily make those things easier. Especially
I think it makes it harder in many cases. I say an interesting thing on that, because we did have a conversation around this, and we encourage all our clients to list out four things, right? So how much profit do you want to, how much income do you want to take from your business, right? Fair enough. How much freedom do you want? Because if you want freedom, you're going to employ people to do some of the stuff that you do. What job satisfaction do you want from it? In other words, what do you want to get rid of that you do at the moment you don't like? And finally, how much do you need to invest this year to build the wealth nest egg that you need to retire on, right? Now, that's your primary, they're called non-negotiable goals. Underneath that, exactly the thing that you just said, Sean. If you want that, you're going to need an obsession with excellence. You're going to need a really good client estate. You're going to need a really, really good team. You're going to need a good engine to win the clients that you want. So there, we put them as conditions for the non-negotiables. And I think not enough people personally specify that outcome from their business, and because of that they don't think about productivity. They lose sight of the profitability a little bit and get obsessed with perhaps turnover or number of staff or whatever, and then it's a race to hire more people, and it's just desperately wrong. There should be triggers to hire people, you know. So when we get so many clients or so many vacancies, so much money in the bank, whatever triggers you want to put, then we'll hire someone, but not before. And I think if you can move away from an emotional hiring strategy to a trigger hiring strategy, you'll do so much better, really. But it is interesting that you scaled it right back, Sean. I didn't know that. That's really funny.
Yeah. And it's, again, there's kind of two ways to kind of factor that as well, around like when you know how much money you want to make and you get there, and then the answer for most people is, well, I want more now. And it's like, okay, why? And it's like, and I think we went down that journey. It was like, how do we get more? How do we get more? I want more. But then you're like, well, if more comes with more stress, more people, more problems, more hours, like, is it worth it? Like, and actually, all of those things don't actually, it's not like 2 + 2 = 4 to get more. Typically, the more people you throw into the mix, the more problems it creates, the more it pulls you away from what you're good at. Typically, you might not even make the money you were making before. And it's seen it so many times.
When Harvey Nash bought us, the second company I sold was to Harvey Nash, and when they bought us, I got their numbers out. And it's a public listed company at the time, so you could get these numbers, but I won't really talk about them. But I was amazed how big their turnover was, and how teeny tiny their net profit was, their EBITDA was. You don't think of it like that. Oh, must be making loads of money. Not at all. If you look, some of them make 2 bob and a conker. And I know that you can lose sight of it is about profit, because profit enables everything. It enables everything you want to do. Just do not lose sight of that and hire on that basis. I can see Kirsty getting nervous now because she wants.
I like to get the timings, and I'm aware. I think a lot of people recognise this world. Staff often come, like you said, Sean, with a lot of headaches, a lot of taking you away from the things that you like doing and are really good doing, because you have to get involved in all of whatever is going on over there, and it doesn't equate to a lot of profit always. And so we've realised it's not the ideal position now. 2 ways to generate income without hiring staff, off the top of my head, would be lift fees and make more placements. Sounds very easy on paper, but a bit more difficult to do in person, perhaps. So we've got a couple of things we want to talk about. And the first of those sort of areas are rolling out productivity metrics for the team. Now, Mike, I know this is something that you are really, really big on.
Yeah, we won't spend a lot of time on this. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty because it's the rest of the podcast. If we do, pretty dry stuff. But half the problem is people don't know what a really productive team looks like in terms of its ability to generate revenue, and underneath that, the metrics that tell you how efficient they are at generating that revenue. So it's important to put together a dashboard which tells you how efficient, how productive each of your people are in your team, because then you know when that team is getting close to maximum productivity. Because there's no sense hiring if someone's not productive just to make more money. What you should do is make the people you've got more productive. If you consider your team as like a machine almost, it's got a maximum capacity in terms of profit. Well, you need to get that team to that maximum capacity, and the rest of the podcast today is going to be focused very much on that. But the starting point is always the same. Get the metrics in so you can say quantifiably, not qualitatively, how effective and productive your team is. So that's always step number one. I'm very, very keen on that, because then you can answer the question, how productive are you?
I guess it depends on where your starting point is as well, in terms of, are you coming into this conversation on your own, or have you got a team that you feel is bloated? Like, they're two different lenses, aren't they? Because we said it before, without a team, without anyone in your team, because I've got 11 people still, there's probably a lack of freedom. And some people are okay with that. There's freedom in different ways of completely working alone and having your own desk and not having to answer to anyone. But when you're on holiday and you're in Wales burning your face and you've got no one to, no one's there picking up the phone or answering the phone, or, you've maybe got your 7-year-old daughter answering the phone. I mean, Mike, we're talking about you now, but not many, there's not that much freedom in that, in my opinion. I think there's a balance of, like, the way I look at it is, like, if I can break down my role into key components and think, which parts do I really enjoy and I'm really fucking good at, which parts could I train someone? And it might only be one person, right? It might just be that one person you unlock that means you carry on at the same level or increase your own output by 10%, but you're doing like 30 to 40% of the work. And that's a really exciting point that people, when I explain this to some people, are like, I never really thought about it like that.
Well, that is really important, because the first business coach I ever had, her name was Anne-Marie Hanlon, back in the mid-90s. She said to me, move everything down to the lowest possible pay grade without affecting quality and performance. I remember, it's ingrained, burnt into my psyche. That is so important. Why would you do something that someone else can do as well, perhaps even better than you, and they like it and you don't like it? So you can free yourself up to either burn your face in Wales, if that's your bag, or to do something which is much more productive and aligned closer to your business superpower, whatever that might be. So I think that's quite an important thing.
And that does sort of lend itself to the next section that I wanted to bring up, which is around training and coaching the team. Because obviously, if you have a more effective team, you're going to make more money because they're going to be better at what they do. So what kind of things would you say about, if you have a team already, making sure that they're well trained, they're well coached, they're the best they can be? Sean?
Again, the age old, I think we're leaving an industry that is not going to be the same, right? That's one thing I think. We're not walking into the past, we're walking into the future. So we look at how we were trained. I was a 360 biller, and it was all about multiplying 360 billers, as many as you can. And, now I think with the tools available and the technology around, reach and exposure that someone like Chris Redmond, for example, has, you don't need a huge team. You don't even necessarily need a 360 team a lot of the time. You can have someone who's doing one part of the job incredibly well. And I think if you're going to start training and coaching, it's a much easier place to train when you're thinking, right, your job is to do this part. Whereas if I've got to train you to do client development, bang down new doors, land and expand, go and build candidate relationships, fee negotiation, candidate control, interview prep, like there's a lot in there.
Oh, and don't forget to do all your social media stuff on top of all of that as well.
Well, exactly. Whereas I'm like, if you're, I don't know, I just think it's a much more simple game if you say, right, well, again, I've broke my role down into 5, and I'm going to get you to do this 1 to begin with. I'm going to train you exactly how I've done it. The cool thing is with AI now, you can put call transcripts from the last 3 months into Fathom or into Claude and get a training program built in minutes. And it's not, this is based on your exact output and the things
it's your training program. It's bespoke to you, isn't it? The way you see the world. Yeah.
Like I recorded a podcast this morning. She said, when she started, her boss, basically her business partner was like an investor. He never even worked in recruitment, but what he was good at was process mapping. So he'd go to every client meeting with her and sit there. And it took 3 months, and he came back and he wrote down this process, and she was like, wow, I didn't even know I did it that way. But he was like, this is our unique mechanism of business development. And I was like, you could do that now in minutes. Like I could literally just get all my transcripts from all the meetings I've had, all the ones that have converted, even the ones that haven't, put them in, prompt it well, and I'll guarantee I've got a training program, and I've got all the recordings for people to go through and all the links.
I think there's something else I'd like to add about training, which people often forget, is that training is essentially knowledge transfer. It's essentially, I know this, and I'm going to use these weird and wonderful tools and techniques that I've developed over years to transfer what I know into your head. But actually, the big change comes in terms of productivity when they put into practice what they've learned from you. And that's where the whole thing breaks down, is that very often we don't focus on behavioral change. We focus on knowledge transfer. And of course, you need both. So in the modern world, and again, it's so much easier now with so many tools around and use of video, it is really about making sure that you transfer little packets of knowledge at once. If you can transfer too much, there's no way they can implement all of that. It's madness. So you go with one thing, they call it laser coaching, I understand. It's not a thing that we do, but I'm led to believe it's laser coaching. You focus on that thing, and you coach and you drill and you coach and you drill until they actually use it. And then you move on to the next thing. And that, of course, does not work so well with 360s, because 360s, as you point out, is so wide. In a layered model, it's much easier to do that because you're just going to pick one of the layers and be very good at that. So I think it is more than just about knowledge transfer. It is also about behavioral change. And if you don't do that, then a lot of that training money that you've invested will just disappear into the ether and never result in productivity increases. It's an important part, really.
But it's also, if you do too many things and too many people, inevitably it's going to be difficult.
No, because they're overwhelmed. It's overwhelming. Can't manage. It's like going to a banquet. No matter how hungry you are and how much food there is, you can only consume so much. And it's the same thing with change, really. You've got to do it in small packets, really. Makes a big difference.
Perfect. Okay, so in a second, we're going to be talking about productization, because I know that's something that is going to be complicated for recruiters as well. But before then, Mike, it's time for our sponsored message from, well, it's us again. We're our own sponsor.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. We did try having a sponsor once, really wasn't for us. We'll do it ourselves. Thank you very much. Right. Okay. I wonder, as you're watching this, if this sounds familiar, right? If any of these things, obviously profit's too low, we're kind of connected with that, all of these things on the screen, because very often if you run your own business, that's what it looks like. And it's supposed to be like that for a little bit, and then it's supposed to get better and better, but oftentimes it doesn't. Well, if they connect with you, we have something that you might be interested. It's called an online profit lifestyle and wealth workshop. And it's how to build a safe. By safe, I mean it's secure from external and internal events. They might dent it, but they won't damage it. It's high profit, a really big focus on high profit, and it doesn't depend on you day to day. So you get that freedom that you're looking for. So let's just look at the details. The next one that we have, we run them every month. We run them in May, but that's full now. So we have one in June. It's 4 p.m. till 6:30 p.m. London time. It's maximum of 8 attendees. We have 3 spaces left, I am told, as of this morning, and it's free of charge, which is probably why we only have 3 spaces left, I would imagine, for June. If you'd like to come, you can either stick a comment down below, PLW workshop, and someone will follow you up and send you a one-pager to read. We don't hassle you. You read. If you want to come, you can. Alternatively, if you're listening to this or watching this as a recording, then just DM me with PLW workshop on LinkedIn, and I will send you that one pager. If you really want to make a difference to the way in which you get rewards from your business, then this workshop is a must.
Perfect. Okay, right, we're back to it now. So I want to talk about productization and productizing your offering and how realistically that can help boost revenues, because I think a lot of the time recruiters think, well, I put a bum on a seat, my service may be different, but a lot of recruitment is very similar. You have to find people, you have to qualify people to get them interviewed, and then you have to place them. So how can productization help with this?
Sure.
I mean, for me, I mean, there's so many ways you could go with this, but I think it starts with going from, you know, being a multi-agency recruiter to an exclusive recruiter and a retained recruiter. That's the goal most people are typically on. And when we say productization, I don't think it needs to go much further than retained work and being able to say, this is my services packaged up this is an actual, like another, I don't want to keep using Chris Redmond as an example, but back in 2019 when we met, the way he articulated the project methodology of how he would fill a job, I was like, I've never heard of anyone going. And he's an ex-project program manager from a telco background. So he's seen the delivery mechanisms and milestones applied to big projects and took the same approach to recruitment. Whereas, you know, I was a very good contract recruiter, but most of it was written in the back of a notepad. You know, the way, you know, I didn't go in there with I didn't say, right, we're going to do a 5-step methodology to a client. It was just like, yeah, I'll have CVs over to you within 24 hours. And that still works in some areas, but where in certain markets now, a lot of my clients are packaging up a way in which they work. I call it the unique mechanism. It's very hard to find a unique selling point in this industry. Well, like you said, everyone's essentially selling the same stuff. But a unique mechanism is the how. And that how can be something specific. I'll give you an example. There was a brewery on the east coast of the US that was going under in the early 2000s. They were really struggling with their sales, and they hired one of the biggest ad agencies, like Mad Men ad agencies, to come and see if they could turn their business around. And this is what this was a story that I heard, the unique mechanism. And they walked around this brewery and they did their research, and the whole point was to try and find a point of difference, right? And they asked the head of the manufacturing, like, what's that machine that's making all the noise? And they said, oh, that's a sterilizer that makes sure all the bottles are crystal clear and fresh, so they're clean, so the beer's fresh. And the agency was like, that's the angle. And they were like, what do you mean? It's like, well, that's what we're gonna talk about. We produce the freshest beer in America, basically. Yeah. And they were like, but every brewery in the world has that machine, you know? And they're like, yeah, I know, but we did our research and not a single brewery in the world mentions that machine. Well, so they were able to launch this campaign around a machine that every other fucking brewery's got. And they're all like, we all do this, but no one's used it as a unique mechanism and built a whole, like you said, PLW, like profit, lifestyle, wealth. You've created a unique mechanism. And it's like, how do we do that within organizations? When we're finding talent for companies, how do we create a unique mechanism, which is the how? Not the what, because the what is the same. It's the how that we are uniquely positioned to package up, in my opinion.
If you like that story, and I love it, you should download a book called Obvious Adams. Obvious Adams. It was written in 1916. And if anybody has heard of David Ogilvy, it was his favorite book. And he made everybody in Ogilvy and Mather read that book every single year. I read it the other day. Fantastic. It's 40 pages and it's stories just like that one.
Yeah.
So I really like that, and it's well worth it. If you're interested in trying to bring that freshness and that different view to your business, read the book. Will make a difference. I agree with what you just said there. Actually, I think we promote recruitment like ice cream. So it's like vanilla. All ice creams that you go and buy are basically vanilla with a flavor added. That's pretty much it, really. And it's the flavoring and the little bits of nut, if you have pistachio or whatever. They're like, 2% of the overall makeup of the ice cream, but they give it its flavor. And you should think about your your product in that way. So a lot of it's going to be the same, but wherever you can add that little bit of difference that sucks you out, because what you're saying to people is, this is our flavor of recruitment. You might not like it, which is fine, so go and buy somebody else's, but this is ours. And if you want this flavor, we're the best at it. You should know that. And then your job really is a marketing job in order to get that out there so that people know that if they like pistachio recruitment, then they come to you, because if they want tutti frutti, then they go down the road and get it from someone else. And that really is about understanding your key messages. So understanding about being able to articulate what you do, who you do it with, how you do it, why people choose you, and providing proof that what you just said is true. And if you can do that and get it in front of enough people, someone will like it. Someone will say, yeah, that's my flavor, that's what I want. And the simpler, the better. The obvious Adams thing, and same with that brewery, it's the simplicity of it that makes the difference. If it's overly complicated or difficult to articulate, even if it's like clever and elegant, it's not really going to work. Simplicity is everything.
But typically, if you actually broke down what a recruiter does to fill a mandate and then asked the client, what do you think they do? It would be two different things.
Oh, yeah.
Clients would think, it's really, really easy, and it's just like, transactional, and it's job boards or whatever. Like in the past, they don't really know the work that you go through, to a top recruiter goes through. So, and an executive search firm would build a picture of that, right? They would build that roadmap, that project land, like milestones, and this is the experience you're going to get. And this is, whereas a contingent agency would typically just say, right, well, I'll be in touch with you with a few CVs, and then they crack on. And it's like, I don't think that's going to be good enough in the future. Like, you're going to have a way of working that is unique to you. But we said this offline, in order to be able to sell a package, you've got to have some demand for your services. Because if you haven't got any clients or good clients, and then you're like, you've just got that bite with a new customer, and you're like, well, this is how I work. And they go, well, no, you'll just go back on it straight away and go, oh, well, I'll work how you work to try and pay the bills. So there's an element of time and process and building a reputation that goes alongside it. Mm-hmm. Like one of my customers, Carl Winterbottom, founder of Ambition, we were on a call on Friday, and he's like, he's getting clients now to pay him 100% fees up front. So one of the largest airline carriers, I won't mention them, chief data officer role, UK based. We're talking 200k salary, what's about? Yeah, 25% fee, 100% of it in his bank before he starts the search.
Wow.
Why?
That is impressive.
Yeah. It's because he's built, not only has he got the package, he's built the product. He can articulate how he's going to do it, but he's built the reputation. He's built he's the name that people are like, yeah, this guy, we want him to fill it. Like, we know he's going to do it. The confidence in him as an individual, as a brand, is now punching above its weight in reality.
That comes from an obsession with excellence, as we said earlier, because if you're obsessed with excellence, you're much more likely to reach it. And the ability to communicate to people what you do and how you do it. And the proof is, look, I can say anything you like, but look, here's proof that what I've just told you is true. And there are people out there that will pay big money if they get a big service. Mm-hmm. Right? Where it falls down is if you're charging big money, but you can't really validate or justify why you want to charge that much money. And charging up front is brilliant. Obviously, they must have a lot of confidence in him and feel that they can trust him to do the job. But that didn't happen overnight.
No, it didn't. But it is how the big consulting firms have managed, like, EY, PwC, Capgemini. The reasons why they're so successful is their names attached to projects, and clients are like, well, we can bank on them doing this. And if not, like, it's on them. It's almost like they're so public. Whereas this little tin pot consultancy comes in, it's like,
oh, yeah.
If they don't deliver, like, who knows about it? Like, it's on us. Whereas actually,
no one ever got sacked for using IBM, did they?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. How do you create a mini version of that? How do you create a perception in the market that no one's going to get sacked for investing in you? It's the same thing.
But it starts with going back to what I said earlier with the data points around productivity, really, because you've got to prove that your service is as good as it can be. It's not like, well, how good are you? Oh, yeah, we're really good. No, prove it to me with numbers then.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, you're not really in the game.
We're number one in the market. We're number one.
Yeah, okay.
That's it. That's the only data point. We're number one. All right.
Yeah. I love it. Mike, I am going to have to interrupt because I know I want to move on to this next one, because it sort of lends itself to what you guys have been talking about, which is part of a way that you can boost your revenues is being very picky about not only the vacancies, but also the clients that you work with. For example, that guy, Sean, he knows that that client trusts him, values him, appreciates the way that he works, is going to work in a way that works for him. So he's going to put a lot of time and effort into him. He knows he's got the money because it's already in his bank. But some people put all that time and effort into clients and then still don't get the job at the end. So making sure that you're working with the right vacancies and with the right clients can have a huge effect, surely.
Yeah, and again, this also comes down to knowing how much work you can handle. So a bit like the productivity piece, it's about the capacity piece as well. Because I mean, you just said it on your own, Mike. You know, we've got only 8 people at this event, 3 left. Why 8? Like, you've obviously worked out a reason why there's a capacity of 8 that gets the most quality output of that event, right? Too many in the room, it's not intimate enough, people can't talk. There's loads of things in there, right? And it's the same here, like. And I'm not saying people can get there tomorrow because it's unrealistic. But if you can design a business where you're like, I'm only going to ever work on X amount of things at one time. You know I need X. It's actually never that much. It's not that big a number for most people. It's not that scary and daunting when you're saying I need 5 projects at one time or 5 roles or whatever. And again, this comes back to having a tight team with lower overheads. So the demand for your services doesn't need to be. If you've got 25 people and the demand for the service needs to be so high to constantly keep the train going, it's very different. Like, Kyle's got a team of 3. 1.3 million last year. I mean, it's insane. But he goes for big roles with big organizations who trust him, like you say, who are going to pay. And he has a criteria of how many roles he wants and how he wants to work. And if they don't meet the criteria, he won't do it. He'll just say, no, thanks. Again, he's there now.
But you can only do that, as you said earlier, if you are confident that you've got almost like a conveyor belt of prospects coming in, that you can effectively sack some of the clients who are time wasters. And God knows we've all had those, haven't we? The time wasters, the tie kickers, the people that change their mind, the people that don't get back to you with results from interviews or CVs you submitted. Dear God, I wish I didn't have to deal with you, but I ain't got anyone else, so suck it up. But that's the deal. That is not acceptable for you if you want to be a high profit business. That is not acceptable. It's okay now, but you have to change that.
But it starts with knowing what good looks like.
Yeah, for sure.
If you've written down this is our ICP and this is what we want. This is the minimum standard. You can say, well, for the next 6 months, I'm prepared to go beyond that because I know I've got to build up the case studies to get there and the demand. But at some point, you need to then draw that line and start living it. You know, but it is a chicken and egg. But again, this comes back down to niching as well. If you're trying to deliver random roles for random organizations and you're constantly starting from scratch, you're never gonna get there. No. Whereas if you can say, I deliver these types of projects in this industry and I've got this client base and I've got these case studies, it's not that.
That's how reputation is built as well, isn't it? Yeah. You become the go-to guy or the go-to girl for this thing. And I always say to people, you can offer different services when you're in, but what you lead with is a very small number of project types in a 100%. Space. We're the go-to guy, the go-to girl for this. If you want this flavor of recruitment again, if you want that flavor, if you don't want it, fine. But if you want it, we're the people that you should come to. But that comes from great success and not just the success, it's the professionalism that sits around it as well. But someone said to me, it's how your clients feel about you as to whether they'll use you again. And that's like a weird thing to say because you think, well, if we're cheap and we're good and people, not always. Sometimes the way in which you make them feel has an impact on whether they decide to use you again. So it's the real deal. But I think if you build that first, then take it to market, the clients will come. If you go to market before you've got a really good, strong flavor of recruitment and they taste it and it's not what they thought it was going to be, that's going to be a real bummer. So in the short term, just be great is my advice, and just pick and choose the difference between good clients and bad clients. Even if you have to continue to work with the bad clients,
be aware. Be aware.
We had a thing years ago in computing called marked for deletion. So it was a record that was marked for deletion, will be deleted that night in the overnight run. You can do that with clients. Okay, I'm going to work with you, but you're marked for deletion, matey. And as soon as someone comes along that's better than you, you're gone. And you don't have to tell them that, obviously.
Yeah, send them a letter. Marked for deletion. Bye, guys.
A couple of things I want to say to you. No. It's an internal tool. you are marked for deletion. You can do it with staff as well, by the way. If you've got someone who's a troublesome.
There's one word that sums everything up that we've said so far. It's about being intentional.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's about being intentional with your time, with how you want your business to run, how you want to work, the clients you work with, the amount of training you give your team, what they actually do all day. It's all about being intentional. And I know that's quite overwhelming when you think, oh, I've got to be intentional about everything. But I guess that's the North Star for people. It's like, don't just work on autopilot because that's what you always did or what your bosses did. Be intentional about the business you want to build, the clients you want to work with, the team you've got, and what they do.
I think that's really well done. Okay,
I think there's a lot of truth. Just to round up on that very quick, because I know we've got to wind up now.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of truth around that being intentional and focus, and being the best that you can be in the space that you choose, and don't choose too big a space because you'll never be the best in that. No. I think that's the way the world is going, and it is. It is changing. You're quite right, Sean. You can see it. It's actually changing so quick. You can see it. And we have to be at the front of that, not at the back of it.
Agreed.
I respect that. Okay. So in a second, we are coming towards the end now. So in a second, I'm going to come to Sean for his top tip of those people. There's been a lot of kind of little nuggets of information. So I'm going to come to Sean to just out of everything else, the one thing you should do. But before then, Mike, can we talk about our next show?
Yeah, we certainly can. We certainly can. Yes, I'm too sure. Just saw Shane say. So Shane Fairchild, he's a solopreneur in the States, and I've never seen anyone like him. For a bloke on his own, if his mates are running short of vacancies, he gets them some and he gives them to them. Right? He's just brilliant, and he's going to share that secret sauce with everybody, which I'm very grateful that he's going to do. And he's such a nice bloke as well. So that's going to be a really good one. Yeah. Never be short of vacancies again. Listen to Shane Fairchild. So it's going to be a great show.
What a sell, Mike. What a sell. Okay, right. So, Sean, we've spoken about a lot today. I really love that you sort of round up with that intentionality, because so many people just build a business kind of because it happened that way rather than being intentional. But if people are listening to this and they think, I want to have a strong business that I'm in control of, that has strong revenues, that I don't have to spend all of my time kind of managing a team and getting that headache, what is it that you think is the most important thing that I do, or the thing that's paramount for me? What would you say to that?
Yeah, and look, this episode, we could take this in so many ways, but I think the network, it's about being really intentional with your network, right? So years ago, it was your Rolodex. I never worked in that recruitment environment. So, I'm
still
not
got one, sure. Still got
the hair, but I've got the grey hair, but I'm not that old. But no, like I think your LinkedIn first degree network is just gold mine for the industry, because most people, the average recruiter has over 5,000 first degree connections. But they don't do anything with it. They all buy LinkedIn Recruiter because they can then DM everyone, and it's a gateway to the world. But everyone's got that access. Everyone's got the same level of access. Whereas when no two people have got the same LinkedIn network, no two people have got the same list of numbers in their phone. Lean into what you've got that makes you you. And if you can say, look, I do these things for these types of people, and you're very clear, you're intentional with the roles you want to recruit for the companies you want to recruit, then look at what your existing network, like how much of that have you already got, and double down on it, and go and carve out that network that is a combination of the people that would work in those organizations and the people that would hire those people. And it'll typically be very fluid, because people lose a job and they're a candidate, they get a job, they're a client. Focus on the network. Be very intentional with tapping into that one space.
I haven't got one of those of my own, but I just want to reinforce what Sean said, because I believe that. In fact, I was going to have that, and then Sean got it first. No, he did. No. I'll tell you, there's the granddaddy of all business coaches is a guy called Dan Sullivan. And Dan Sullivan once said, he said, all the money you want is in the pockets of the people you know, and the pockets of the people they know. And it's the same with vacancies. All the vacancies you want are in the little black book of the people you know, the little black book of the people they know. Don't be afraid to ask for introductions. If you've got your network and it's strong enough, if you ask for introductions, almost certainly you'll get them. And yet few people do it. They wait for people to come. So that's fine, but you can go out and you can ask. And I promise, if you do that and you're good at what you do, you will get introductions. Some of those introductions will turn into work. So totally behind that one.
Perfect. Okay, so We are at the end of the show now. So first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who's watched or listened. If you're on the podcast, thank you very much. Feel free to subscribe to us if you like. I want to say a huge thank you to Sean for being here today, for sharing kind of your knowledge and giving us your time today. Very much appreciate it. I know you're very busy, so thank you very much.
Pleasure.
And of course, thank you to Mike for basically keeping this show alight and bright in its energy, or that could just be his face.
It's my face. Thank you, Kirsty. And can I also thank you, Sean? It's been great. Really enjoyed this. Really looking forward to it. It's been such fun. And also, I suppose I should thank the hostess with the mostest. That would be Kirsty Elizabeth. So thank you very much. We'll see you all in 2 weeks' time.